welcome back to the Diversity in Tech Leaders podcast with me, Jess Sutcliffe here at Coltech. Today we have the amazing Eric Kelly, who is Chairman and CEO of a portfolio of tech companies. I will let you introduce yourself, Eric, because I'm sure you will do a far better job than I can and know far more than I do about all the companies that you're a part of.
Well, I'll do my best. Jessica, great seeing you again. And I'm Eric Kelly. I'm the chairman of 4 technology companies. Overland Tandberg, which has been around for 41 years, believe it or not.
We don't believe it.
Yeah, it went public in 1997. And in November 2018, we were able to take it private. Also the chairman and CEO of Overland OT Global Technologies, which is a systems integrator and reseller business. And then I'm the chairman and CEO of OT Global Protection, which is a technology healthcare business. And then my passion project, as I shared with you, is Bridge to Technology, which is really designed, a SaaS platform designed to bridge the digital and diversity divide. So to connect, diverse companies, diverse talent with corporations around the world. So that's what I'm doing. And I don't have any spare time. And I promised my team I would not add a 5th company in 2021. So they're worried about 2022 now.
Oh wow, yeah, that means there'll be double the amount in 2023. We're in 2022 now, yeah. But no, amazing, and obviously couldn't think of a more perfect guest to have on. You've just, about sort of 2 years into the journey for starting at Bridge 2 Technologies, which one of the businesses we'll be focusing on speaking about today. So I guess you've given us an overview of what you're doing at the moment. Could you give us a little bit of insight to where your passion about diversity and inclusion came from?
My passion project turned into a passion company is, Bridge to Technologies. And I have to share with you, Jessica, it was a journey in my entire career. So this was something that, during my career, understanding diversity, inclusion, and more importantly, a global intellect and inclusiveness. And what's happened, during my career, and I'll tell you a couple of stories, but when I started my career here in Silicon Valley, I had the opportunity to build an international business plan. And so signed off by my CEO, I flew over to Scotland. It was the worst plan ever, Jessica. We had no idea here in San Jose what it meant to do business in Europe. And that really started me that journey in terms of global intellect and inclusiveness. So I spent 2 weeks rewriting the plan. My CEO was going, Eric, this is not what we signed off on. I said, yeah, but we had no idea what we were doing. So from there, I spent a lot of time in Europe. I spent a lot of time throughout Asia. And what I found out, doing business in Japan is totally different than doing business in the UK or Germany or Italy. And I started saying, we really have to have some global intellect and inclusiveness. And as a diverse executive, a diverse board member, I started really connecting the dots between global intellect and inclusiveness and diversity inclusion. And so the premise of the company is if we understand how to do business globally, then you understand diversity and inclusion, and it's going to make you a better company. You're going to have a better culture, and it's already been proven that diverse companies, from the board level on down, have a much better profitability, much better culture, and the employees are much happier. And so what we do with this platform is not just bridging companies together, but bridging talent and also bridging the communities. And so when you think about Bridge to Technologies, you think about Bridge to Communities, you think about Bridge to Diversity, it all has the same theme. And so that's my passion project. I could talk to you all day about that.
Absolutely. And our 15-minute on Tuesday lasted about an hour, but I absolutely enjoyed the conversation. I'm glad everybody else can listen to it now. So in terms of your journey, sort of personally to get where you are now, I know you've given a little bit of an insight there, but where did your journey start into the tech industry?
Started my career, 30 plus years ago, believe it or not. I know I don't look that old.
You don't at all.
I started off as a baby, and started with IBM. And I got to tell you, that was probably the best way to enter the technology industry, because back then they spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars training hires, not just on technology, but they even had a program they went through. And the end of it, we call it the finishing school. They told us what tie to buy, what wingtip shoes, the blue suit. They even taught you how to present and carry yourself. And you don't do that today. But one of the things that journey taught me was, how do you actually fit into a corporation but still be yourself? And everyone talks about bring your whole self to work, and that's important. I share with you, just don't bring the Saturday night party self to work. But what you really mean is to be authentic, because if they want to have diversity, you don't want to leave your diversity at the door because now you just totally defeated the purpose. Really making sure that the cultures understand and work with each other. And when I talk about global intellect and inclusiveness, it's bi-directional. So it's not just having diverse talent and employees learn how to fit into corporations, but actually have corporations understand the cultures because it has to go both ways. When you figure that out, I mean, I use the example. I remember years ago, you'll laugh at this. We're traveling throughout Asia, and I was with my team, and we're meeting with the clients. And one of the folks says, "Wow, this is interesting. They're foreigners." I said, "No, we're the foreigners. We're in their country." It's just that mindset is, you have to understand how they do business there. And I mean, just in Japan, how they hand out the business cards is different. Even where they sit around the table is based on hierarchy. Here in the States, we just come and take any chair. So we start insulting him right at the beginning, and because we don't understand how the cultures work. But to answer your question, my journey really started there, and had the opportunity to do a lot of work internationally. Really, it was just kind of a passion of mine in terms of how do I do business in Singapore, where they said, "Well, Eric, make sure you don't insult them. You have to go karaoke singing." Well, I can't sing, but I had to go.
I'm sure you
and
can.
and just those type of things. And one thing that I realized growing up, I was a golfer, and I actually was a snow skier. It's almost like what you see is not actually what you think. And so when I get on the golf course, they're like, "You play golf?" I said, "Yeah." And I said, "I'm fairly good. I played in college as well." "You ski?" And so they first think, "Black guy, does he plays golf, he skis?" I said, "Yeah, and I can play basketball too." But but so it really started me thinking about really bridging everyone together, bringing not just the common part of who we are, but also showing how authentic we can be and how important that is. So it's like I might have one of my partners when he came from England, and it was fascinating. We'd go visit customers at IBM, and he ate his hamburger with a knife and a fork.
Oh
And
my
people were like,
gosh.
"Yes." He was like, "He was the Brit." And so we're like, "We pick up the hamburger ourselves. What's going on?" So,
I must
uh,
be American in that way then, because I'm all in there with my hands, no knife and fork to be seen.
well, it's probably generational. So, but just those things are really so important to understand the difference in the cultures. And when you do that, I mean, you've traveled all around the world. It's fascinating, and you really start, learning. Like when you go to Italy and or throughout Europe, a lot of places they don't start eating dinner until like 8 o'clock at night. I mean, we're like, what?
Yeah.
You don't start at 6. And so just those things are so important. So my team, now that, we touch about 100 different countries today. If you come to our office, global intellect and inclusiveness is on the wall. And I know it's working, now that my team starts using it against me. We'll be talking to my team in Germany and they'll go, "No, Eric, it's global intellect. This is how we do it here in Germany." Or my team, in Hong Kong, "No, it's global intellect." I'm like, okay, I created monsters. But one of the things that happened when the pandemic came, global intellect and inclusiveness is kind of our mantra. And I told the team, either this is just a great saying or it actually is going to work. So we're going to put it to the test. I was like, I keep my fingers crossed that actually, global intellect, they finally figured it out. Well, we have a huge manufacturing facility in China. That's where it's first showing up. So we had a health officer, we had distance in terms of where people had to be. Packaging would come in, we'd set it aside for 24 hours, and we really put a process in place. And we took that global intellect and then replicated it throughout Europe, and then replicated it throughout the U.S. That was amazing to watch how, yeah, leveraging everyone's talent on something that we've never seen before, a pandemic that's just sweeping the world, that we were able to work that way through global intellect. So I said, guys, we got it. This is how it works. This is kind of give you a little bit about my journey of 30 plus years in 5 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's amazing. And obviously, you've had a vast range of experience. And like you said, I think your mindset of creating a diverse and inclusive workforce has clearly passed on to the people that you're sharing the business with and hiring and bringing on. But in terms of challenges that you potentially face working with outside sources, or in particular in the hiring process that other people have found, what challenges for other people, have you come across that they struggle where they struggle to hire diversely?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll share you some of the personal challenges, and then tell you
Yeah.
because as I advanced my career being an executive, a black male, and being the only one, very difficult. Okay, because one, people didn't know how to interact with you. They didn't know how, you really fit into the environment. And I'll share some examples, which is really interesting. And I always look at it as a opportunity to just kind of point out the what I call unconscious biases, because people do things and don't even know, wow, I did that. Running a public company, traveling around the world, and the first thing is they don't think I'm the CEO,
Yeah.
right? Because my last name is Kelly, so first they think I'm Irish, right? And so just those unconscious biases as they go around the table, shaking my leadership's team to finally find out, oh, you're the CEO, or going to a country club. They think that you're the caddy, okay? Or traveling throughout the airport. So you remember when 9/11 hit and
Yeah.
they had the screening, and I'm traveling with my team, and after a week, one of my direct reports said, Eric, there is nothing, and now I get it. It wasn't random, where they pull you every screening, I was pulled aside.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's a great learning opportunity. And then also just understanding how you actually are very similar. Okay. And using everybody's differences actually makes the company better. I always look at it as, being the first to kind of take the leadership of diversity and inclusion. So I was the chairman CEO of the board, public company, chairman CEO today. So I would start off the conversation. We need to have diverse board members. And you can see them all go, oh, I'm glad you brought it up. Because they weren't sure how to bring it up.
Yeah.
And so I think just being very open and very receptive in terms of, people are uncomfortable on both sides.
Yeah.
And I think what people think, well, I'm uncomfortable and they're not. But no, everybody's uncomfortable. So it's like the icebreaker.
Yeah.
And whether it's diverse candidates, women candidates, just really making sure that happens. The other thing that I really focus on are the unconscious biases, where you've heard the old boys club or these things, and so I want to make sure that they're not crossing the boundaries and they're challenging the diverse candidates or the women a bit more than their non-diverse colleagues. And
Yeah.
so just pointing that out, said, why were you doing that? Okay, why were you going around that executive? And they're like, wow, I didn't think about it. So I look at it as a great education. And that's why the Business Technology platform is so important, because it's not just connecting companies and people, but it's also providing mentorship and also sponsors. I think we're talking about the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. And it
Yeah.
also provides what I call soft skill gaps. Give you an example, I was at a pretty large technology company that had 100 presidents in the room. And I happened to be invited because I'm the chairman of one of the universities. And they said, here's what we want you to teach your students. What they call, persuasive skills, agility, adaptability. And then all of the studies, for diverse candidates are how do they, operate in corporate environment? How do they operate in a conference room? What's the tone, okay, that they should have? Okay, how do they collaborate with their peers? And then how do they socialize in the country club or offsite events? And so those are the soft skill gaps that they need to have versus the non-diverse. And so really understanding, when you join a company as a woman, okay, the soft skill gaps that you really want to close in on are different than a male. Okay. And so it just kind of goes, and so you say, okay, now I get it. And I do internships every summer and I have all diverse candidates. And even the pandemic we did this past summer, I said, everybody, you can work from home because COVID. They're like, no, we want to come to the office. We've never been in an office before. We worked at restaurants, we worked retail, but never been in a conference room. And I always ended with taking them to a country club. And they're like, oh my God, what do I wear? What's the protocol? And so just letting them know that you've already done all the hard work. You've gone to the school, you've studied, and now the soft skill gaps are just something that you need to pick up. And that's a socioeconomic issue, nothing more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the fact that you're incorporating that into Bridge 2 Technologies is such a great and important thing, not only to connect everybody, but provide educational and, mental resources for people to learn more and understand a little bit why it's so important, and how people can get involved and help as well. So I mean, I guess a good next question would be around why it's important to create diverse workforces in your experience and sort of your opinion as well.
Well, having a diverse workforce is the only way to succeed. I mean, I don't care if you're a small business or, a national global business, everything you do is global. I mean, if you're buying product, it's coming from someplace around the world. If you have customers, they're going to have a global thought in terms of how they grow their business. So, I mean, I use the example. I don't know how to do business in Japan as well as my country manager in Japan. I don't know how to do business as well as my country manager in Germany. So it just makes sense to me
Yeah.
that you use the expertise to be successful. And I mean, just the nuances and the customer satisfaction when they have a local, okay, either the local language, the local culture. We have a person in Italy. When I go there, I mean, we're having a great time. I would not know that we're going to have a 2 hour, 2.5 hour lunch, and that's how they do it. Okay. And so it's just really being respectful for the different cultures,
Yeah.
to not think that it's my way or no way. I mean, good example, when you have executive meetings in Taiwan, they give you a nice gift, porcelain gift, just out of respect. And if you don't know that, you're going to go over there empty-handed and
Yeah.
look really bad. Right? So
I'll note that down just in case.
put that down. And then if you think about the US, because it's so broad, doing business on the East Coast is totally different than doing business, in the Midwest and Texas versus doing business in, Northern California. I mean, I ran the enterprise business for Dell in Austin, Texas. And we'd have customers come in, and we had a restaurant where if they had a tie-in like this, they would cut it off
Oh
because
my gosh.
they don't wear ties in,
Yeah.
in in Austin. Well, if I go to New York and I didn't have a tie on, I was underdressed.
Yeah.
And you can imagine Silicon Valley. I mean, we're just free.
Yeah.
And so it could be, whatever you want. And so and I have engineers here in the valley that, one day they come in, their hair is red, the next day it's green. It's just, that's just the way the culture is. And so you think about that on a global basis, that's the only way to be successful.
Yeah.
And you can't do it without a diverse board. And when I say diverse, I want to be clear, it's not just black, brown, white, it's also, gender, and it's also age.
Yeah.
Because like the development of the platform, it was 20-year-olds, 30, 40, 50, 60, and they also were geographically dispersed. And I'd go and say, as the old guy, how about this feature? And they go, they do that in Instagram. Oh, really? Or what about this feature? And they go, no, no, they've been doing that for years. And then the folks in Europe are saying, well, but we really like it this way. And
Yeah.
so the platform is truly global, which is unbelievable in terms of what it looks like. And I can literally look at the drop downs and tell what age group it was. Okay.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. Like one of the drop downs says, they want to vent. Well, in my area, you're not going to have a drop down, so I just want to vent, right? Or you just have the different drop downs that you can tell, age, geography, where it's coming from. So, but that's how you do it. But the thing is, you can't really bridge the diversity divide without technology. Because if you think about, for decades and decades, technology is really the accelerator. So think
Yeah.
about, we're on LinkedIn. Just think if that didn't exist. How would we connect? Okay. Or if Facebook didn't exist, or Instagram, or any of the things that are the connectivity tools, or Slack, you just go down the list. But there wasn't a platform designed to connect you and I, because
Yeah.
you are women and I'm a diverse candidate, you're a diverse candidate, but there's nothing there for us,
Yeah.
right?
Got to
Until
look
now,
that little bit harder.
it's a little bit harder.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're not able to build your peer circles, you're not able to have, networking from chats. Technology has to be, the foundation for what we're doing.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we can, and that you've shown up with your tie and all, looking smart for us. So, I mean, obviously, you've touched on it quite a little bit there in terms of the plans for Bridge Two Technologies, and obviously, it's got immense potential what you're doing and to make a difference to people's lives. How do you think it'll make a difference to minorities within the industry?
Oh, I mean, it's going to be, a game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm already seeing it happen. And the good thing about technology, it's kind of a vessel. And then really, the people that are using it really, shape what the technology is going to be used for. It's just really a platform that allows them to really, be themselves. So some of the things I thought they'd be interested in, not so interested. The things that I didn't think, it's like that's the best thing since I've ever seen. But what it really is doing is allowing them to connect. Whether you're just getting out of college, you're moving because a lot of the younger generation move a lot. I mean, and give you a good example, people moving to Silicon Valley. The things that they're asking each other, I'm coming into Silicon Valley. Where do I get my hair done?
Yeah, that'll be
Because,
me when I move to Austin.
well, see, for Austin, but think about diverse candidates in Silicon Valley
Yeah.
where, there's no one that did that. Or, where are the restaurants that, I like authentic food, so whatever, culture in, where do I go? Okay. And then you start building that community because what we found out is that diverse candidates, the time that they stay at a technology company is almost 40% less than if you're non-diverse. Because what happens, they come, they feel like, Venus versus Mars, and they go back home because they weren't able to build that network. And so that's one of the things that I didn't know it was that important. Because for me, unfortunately, I don't have to worry about where I get my hair done, right?
Well, I don't know what you mean.
Mine's pretty easy. So, but so it really is so important to build that community. And what I'm finding out is they're now using for mentors to connect with mentors and sponsors. They're connecting with each other inside of the corporations. So it's really evolving. And we're just excited about how the platform is being adopted. And by the way, we have people from all over the world that's in there. I mean, and I get emails all the time saying, can I join the platform? Because everybody can't join. Right. So
Yeah.
it's pretty selective right now in terms of who we're letting in. And one of the things I put in there, which everybody will hear is, so you can tell the old guy, they said I was censoring. So if I put a bad word in there, it says, please do not use bad language. Didn't want people to really get carried away. So, but I think, maybe it's just my life journey in technology and watching what it does to transform, just people's lives. I mean, one of the things that's happened out of this is with the pandemic, we've had groups have now donated hundreds of thousands of masks, technologies to homeless shelters and communities. I mean, that I didn't really, think about. So we went from bridge to technologies to someone says, why don't we call it bridge to communities? So bridging the communities together. So we're now rolling out technology to community centers and homeless shelters all throughout the U.S. And I'm telling my team we need to do the same thing globally. And so I'm just waiting to see, what it has in store for us over the next number of years, because this is just the first generation of the platform. And one of the things that happened, just to share with you, is when we launched this Global Intellect Summit, we took 50 diverse leaders to ring the NASDAQ bell. And it was the first time that I ever seen, 50 Black leaders ringing the NASDAQ bell. And so now we're expanding it to a much broader, diverse group. So we're going to go back this year for Juneteenth. And so it's like we were talking about, how do you find diverse candidates if you don't have diverse leaders? Because they don't know where to find. We're talking about HBCUs,
Yeah.
and they go, what's an HBCU? And the HBCUs say, well, they should know who we are. And he says, no, they don't know who you are. And so just connecting those worlds together, or the professional organizations, whether it's Latino, whether it's Black, whether it's women, they have amazing organizations and they're saying they can't find candidates. Well, they don't know where to look.
Yeah.
And so that's really what this is going to allow them to do, is to look in one place and to find you, to find me, to find everyone else. And they're going to be amazed at the talent that they discover.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've shared my thoughts with you how important a platform like this is. Like you said, I've never ever come across it. And me myself, when I am recruiting, obviously, I mentioned this to you the other day. I'm having to look in a lot more different places to find diverse talent. And that's not to say at all that I would not contact some like a white male on, page one of LinkedIn
Yep.
because they've got the skill set. Absolutely not. But I think for us it's really important for us as a company who preaches about diversity, and I'm doing podcasts like this to be able to present more than one demographic to our clients. I think that's so important. So whether that's, going to Slack channels, women in tech, women who code, or there's Austin Urban Technology Movement as well that concentrate on helping Black and Hispanic people get into the tech industry and
Yep.
sort of up the skills and everything. So it's finding these places, but it takes a lot more work than just, just a quick search on LinkedIn. Quite a lot of people do. I think having it all in one place, and like you said, I actually had a look up at all the places you told me to Google yesterday. Obviously, really interesting. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing what you're doing. So we'll move on to our next question. In terms of the hiring process, I imagine you've done a fair share in over the time.
I have.
How have how have you managed to navigate the hiring process and keep diversity in mind for you?
Well, I think one is kind of what we talked about before, is to make sure when we're trying to source a position, is they go to a much broader network to find folks. If you're looking at entry level, well, don't just go to the university you graduated from. Go to HBCUs. There's 300,000 students, 50,000 graduating a year, and various talent there. If you're looking for senior leadership, go to the different professional organizations, the women organizations, the Latino organizations, the Black organizations, the veterans organizations, and really make sure you've covered all that. So I want to make sure before you start serving candidates up, where did you look? So that's really one of the things. And probably one of the most interesting things that I found is I don't have to say it because I'm sitting there as a CEO. They feel it's okay to bring diverse candidates. Isn't that interesting? I think if I wasn't, a diverse CEO, they may go, well, I don't know, how many diverse candidates we can have. So I think just having a diverse team again allows people to say, okay, this is what the makeup of the company should look like, and feel comfortable doing it. If you can't see it, you can't be it. Okay, and so if they see a diverse team, they see that you're really embracing culture and diverse cultures, then they're comfortable bringing in diverse talent. Not rocket scientists, but you have to get that. And that's why, interesting, if you look at, companies, from generation to generation, it's hard to break that cycle
Yeah.
because who do you know? Well, I know, the folks that I know at the country club. I know the folks, live in the neighborhood, and, you don't live in that neighborhood. Technology is the only way to find us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. And go on, sorry, I think you're going to say something.
But one of the things I always make sure, because we're international, and I remember when I started my career, there was a big push to have expats. If you're here in the U.S., you want to be an expat in Singapore, you want to be an expat in Japan. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, if I went to do and drive business in London, why would I send someone there and you're there?
Yeah. Yeah.
First of all, it insults the team that's there going, well, what do we chop liver? Okay, we can't do this. And two, they don't understand the culture. Now, if you want to send them there to kind of learn how to be a global executive, that's fine. But typically the expat goes there and they're the one that's in charge. And so it just sends the wrong message. It doesn't actually scale the business. It actually impedes it. And so I literally look at that, I can send my team around globally, but I'm going to build my team in that country. And I just think that's one we've hopefully evolved from. And I think that's how you grow the talent and bring in the talent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, to be honest, that leads quite nicely onto the next question around leadership and your approach to leadership and your management skills, sort of style, if you will. Because obviously, you've said there it's really important to maintain the culture within whatever country your businesses are based in, or even if it's globally, as it is for you, to maintain that culture within, even if it's as opposed to sending somebody over there to have a learning experience as opposed to taking over everything. So how would you describe your leadership style and sort of advice to give to somebody who's looking to get into a
Yeah,
position like you?
yeah. My leadership, and I always say you have to have a framework, and that framework really drives your decisions and your processes. And mine is global intellect and inclusiveness.
Yeah.
And so if you think about every time you make a decision, One, did you have a global thought, global intellect, and did you include your people around the world? Okay, and that's your peers, that's, whoever is in that country. So think about this. If I want to expand into a market, global intellect, okay, and inclusiveness, and that strategy and that in the day-to-day operations. If I want to come out with a new product, it's global intellect. How does that product resonate around the world, and are they included in the decision-making process? And so when you have a framework and you think about the decisions that you make every day, that's really the leadership. And it's really interesting because I'll be in a meeting and it says, did you include, the team around the world? Well, no. Okay, well, they're going to have a view. Okay, and are they included in the process as we develop the product or launch the product? And I can tell you how you launch something in one region is totally different how you launch it in another region. And so the other thing about leadership is I build a team that they're okay with failing, because you have to give them the space to be able to fail. And I always say, if I don't have you in learning how to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations, then I'm not pushing you,
Yeah.
right? You can imagine, some people are like, if I don't know it, I'm not going to try. And you got to, you say, well, then how are you ever going to learn? And so that's really, kind of a couple of the things that I always advise people. I do a lot of mentorship for CEOs, and also from a culture standpoint, be yourself. I mentor a lady who's running an amazing business here in the Valley. She says, be yourself because you're amazing. And that's where how the company's going to continue to grow. I coach other diverse candidates, and they always feel intimidated. They go, well, I'm the only one. So clearly, if all four of them disagree, I'm wrong. No, you're the CEO. You're running marketing. You're running, engineering. That's where we need to have that. I always say if everybody agrees, we don't need everybody in the room, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the final one that my leadership team finally has learned, I always say, check your ego and your title at the door.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the hierarchy. Well, I'm the boss, and so therefore I'm smarter. No. Okay.
Absolutely not.
So check that ego and the title at the door. We're going to make great decisions. And it's amazing where those great ideas come from.
Yeah.
Like my executive assistant is in my staff meetings. Okay. And she has some amazing ideas. And they go, well, how do you know that? And so you check, I said, check that title, check the
Yeah.
ego. Okay. And you'll be amazed at how many ideas have. I mean, I've had some of my employees with me, for 15, 20 years. And the ones that have known me, it's amazing to see how we interact versus the new ones.
Yeah.
And so, they know this is don't let me make mistakes. Have you ever been in a meeting where an executive is presenting and talking about where they're going, and everybody in the room is going, that makes no sense at all,
Yeah.
right? And so
Not here. Not here. Don't shoot me.
And so I always tell them, guys, it's your job to not let me make these mistakes. And so we're in these meetings, I have the whole group and we're talking, and the folks that know me, they're just debating with me, and they're like, are they going to get fired? I mean, they're debating with Eric. Okay. And they go, oh, no, I've known him for 15 years. He says, the worst thing he wants is to have him go make a mistake. And then he comes back and says, guys, you let me do it again. Okay. It's really empowering them. And it's so much fun. I have one of my employees, who's been here, I don't know how long we've been hanging out, but it's had to be at least 15 years. And we have a race to get to the office. And one day we're both getting in the elevator together, and we're both running down the hall. And they're like, what are they doing? Because we're trying to see who gets in first. It's a team. You just happen to play a position, but everybody on the team is just as important. And so it's a lot of fun, when you actually have that type of culture. So my leadership is really, a framework.
Yeah.
It's all inclusiveness. It's global intellect. It's like, for example, if you're coming to Austin, it's probably great to probably figure out how, you got to get your cowboy boots.
Yeah. And
And
suntan
just
lotion as well, because we don't have that kind of weather over here.
oh, that's right. That's right. So it's just that global intellect. And, when you reach out that way, and for me, it's just been my passion, forever. Maybe
Yeah.
one thing I really like is food. So every place I go, I want to try the cuisine.
Yeah.
And it's so that's kind of the leadership piece, but and really mentoring people, really giving them a space to grow. And what I found is interesting. I put people in different departments, and we have a young lady here. She started off in HR, found out she really likes operations. We put someone who wants to do business development. They try, they go, "Ooh, I really don't like customers. Can I go back to my old job?" And so you really give them a chance to do that. I've had that opportunity to really just go from, different parts of an organization and say, yeah, I kind of like that, but I really like this a little better. And that's really where you find your where you really are good. There's a book out called Good to Great, and one of the things they talk about is getting people on the bus and on the right seat in the bus.
Yeah.
So you can find someone that is in the wrong seat and they're just really, struggling, and you put them in a different seat and you go, God, that's a superstar. What happened?
Yeah.
And so it's our job is to get them on the right seat.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a good mindset for a leader within a business, especially as big as your organizations. And I think, like you said, you've got staff that have been with you for 15, 20 years, and it just shows the staff retention, shows how much of a good leader you are. So, I mean, congratulations on that part of things. So, I mean, in terms of advice that you would give, I mean, obviously, I imagine regurgitating what you've just said there, but in terms of advice that you would give to companies that are looking to hire more diversely or be more inclusive within their working ways, what advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I would say one, really look in your organization and find out where the diversity is today and bring them to the table
Yeah.
and allow them to have a voice. They may not be in the C-suite, they may be, new hires, they may be around the world, but bring them to the table and get them comfortable with sharing with you what's working and what's not working. And continue that, because it's not a one meeting or one session, because you're going to learn how to operate globally, how to work with different cultures, and then really have a plan to bring in diversity at all levels, the board level as well as the C-suite, because there's a lot of board decisions, where they can ask, the right questions to actually drive a company to a more diverse and global culture. Same with the C-suite. And what really I found out is you want to have more than just one diverse candidate.
Yeah.
And there's a study out there that shows you that, let's say if you have 3 women on your C-suite, you're really going to have a much more diverse conversation than one,
Yeah.
right? And I can share that from examples. Because I have probably 50% women on my staff. They now are speaking their voice. Okay, they got enough critical mass. Okay, that it's okay. I'm not the only one, and I got some people backing me up.
Yeah.
And so that's really my advice: is find the culture in the company today, no matter where they are, and
Yeah.
bring them to the table. And they're going to find out, they're going to learn a lot of things. I mean, I did this with a pretty large corporation, and the CEO at the end of that was crying. It was a lady.
Oh, wow.
She goes, I had no idea
Yeah. Yeah.
that this
Yeah.
was going on. I had no idea that that's how you were raised. I had no idea, the struggle. I had no idea. Okay. And so it's like I said, the global intellect is bi-directional.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's really my advice. And if you do that, you're going to have an amazing company.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't think of I don't think anyone's actually said that when they've offered advice. I think that's a really interesting point, and it absolutely makes sense in order to create a more diverse workforce and inclusive, especially for the people that are already there and the people that are going to be on board in the future. I guess switching on from that, then, what advice would you give to somebody from a minority background when looking to get into the tech industry or potentially progressing their career into a leadership position?
Yeah, I mean, and that's really challenging, as you know. I mean, there's probably, I'll just use the how many blacks are in technologies? It's roughly 2%.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at, Latino, not much better, and you can go down the list. But the advice I would give them is, one, anything you do your homework and understand the culture, understand how to fit into that culture and still be yourself. So never leave who you are behind when you walk in the door, because that's what they're looking to see, that diversity. The second one is find a mentor and find a sponsor. And there's a big difference. The mentor is going to tell you all the things you need to do, what classes you need to take, how do you need to get prepared. That sponsor is so key. They're the ones that are going to say, Jessica, not only am I a mentor, but I'm putting my brand next to your brand, and you're going to get that promotion. You're going to get that raise. And so find people that are not only going to be your mentor, but they're going to be your sponsor. The other thing is you need to have more than one mentor and more than one sponsor, because I have had tons of mentors and tons of sponsors throughout my career, because each of them bring different value. So that's really, my advice, because, people don't do the homework. Okay, either when you are coming to get that job, and I always say, be the person that you want to be for the next job. Okay,
Yeah.
so when you walk in and you say, I want that job, you need to start acting like that is the job that you can do.
Yeah.
And it's so important, because when you sit around the table, quite frankly, and they say, who's going to get the promotion? They're not going through your, what rating did you get? It's the folks saying, there's something about Eric, it's something about Jessica that they can do that job. The reason why they say that, because you've already given the perception and you've already done the work as if you can do that job. And what most people do where they make the mistake, they wait to get the job to show I can do the job.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So every promotion I received was, I said, I'm going to show them I could do that job. So I watched the person do it. I said, I'm going to do it like them. And they go, wow, you're doing that job, or you can do that job. So
Yeah,
that
absolutely. That's great advice for everybody listening. And I mean, in terms of anybody who is listening that is from a minority background or looking to get into the tech industry, etc., I would be happy to send you the link to Eric's website to
yeah,
have a look on there, see if you can get included within Bridge 2 Technologies,
I'm,
if you're lucky enough.
I'm looking, I'm hiring. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, you heard it here first, guys. So
yeah.
jump on board. So I guess we'll lead to our final question then. What are your plans for the future? Obviously, you've got a lot of exciting things coming up. What does it look like for you?
Yeah, my plan for the future is one, the companies that we're running, I'm having a race. Which one is going to get to the $1 billion mark first? And I want them all to be there. And I really want to make sure I'm building the next generation leaders. And so that's really, what I'm trying to get done, after 30 plus years in the industry. That's really, what I want to make sure I leave as a legacy and I give back is, some very successful companies. But, who are the leaders that really, believe in global intellect and inclusiveness, and basically building the technology companies of the future when it looks like everybody else around the world. And so that's really what we're doing. So that's my journey. And as I told everybody, I'm not stepping down until I get it done.
Yeah.
So so it may be another 10 years, but that's really what I'm doing. So when you think about just building the businesses and building the teams and the leadership is really what gets me up early in the morning and keeps me up late at night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're saying if it takes you 10 years, you'll do it. But I think even if you manage to do it, from the sounds of our conversations that we've had, I don't even think you'll stop then.
No, I won't.
Well, yeah, exactly. So, well, it's been a pleasure having you on our podcast, Eric. Thank you very, very much for your time and joining and sharing all the knowledge and advice that you've given today. If you could leave our viewers with one final message, what would that be?
Well, my final message was something I've been saying all along is one, global intellect and inclusiveness. And if you think about that as your framework, when you're building your career, you're building your business, you're going to be extremely successful. And just remember, we have a lot more in common than we do in differences.
Absolutely. Perfect. Well, what a way to close the podcast. Thank you very much again, Eric. And I'm sure we'll be speaking very soon.
All right, talk to you soon. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, thank you. Bye.